What's up YouTube? Capital G here. Today I'm going to talk about Photon, Shockwave, and Generation Force. Basically, this is just going to be a comparison. I'm going to contrast the two sets and tell you which one I think is ultimately better. I've been hearing a lot about Photon, Shockwave. People have been getting excited about it, which I understand. But people have even gone as far as saying that it's better than Generation Force, which I have to consider borderline blasphemy. Like, where do you get off saying things like that? Because it's just absurd. It's ridiculous. I'm looking at this strictly from a competitive standpoint, so there's no bias here at all. The thing that I don't really like about Photon Shockwave is when I look at it from a competitive standpoint, there are only a couple of cards in this set, maybe four tops, that are really going to affect the meta and are going to do big things. So when you talk about the competitiveness of each set, Photon Shockwave doesn't have a leg to stand on, to be completely honest. I think that Generation Force matches up much like a set like Duelist Genesis, where it was launching a new era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Whether it be Synchro or XC. Basically, they were going to try and duplicate what they did in Duelist Genesis with Generation Force. Generation Force was a set that it introduced, a brand new particular set of monsters, that being XC. So Konami was going to make a whole lot of them. They were going to make them widely accessible, and they were going to make them very easy to summon and possibly overpowered. When I look at Leviair and Leviathan, in my opinion, those match up. Actually, they're comparable to Stardust and Goyo, where these are cards where it didn't really matter which archetype or what theme you were using. If you could do the type of summon that these cards allowed, you were going to run these in your extra deck because they were basically staples. Goyo and Stardust, whether you were running zombies during Teledad or Lightsworn or Teledad itself, you were running these cards because they were staples, and they're basically staples from the day they came out until the day they got banned or what have you, like Goyo Guardian. When I look at Photon Shockwave, I'm not seeing anything that meets that criteria. I'm not seeing that one XC in here that's like, man, everybody's going to be running this. You just got to have this card. So I think that Generation Force has an edge there. Even when I look at the secondary synchros, like Steelstorm Roach is what I would consider maybe tier 2. It's comparable to like Red Dragon or what Thought Ruler was with the synchro, where this card is definitely an ace in certain situations, but it's not something that has to be in every extra deck. It's not what you would consider an extra deck staple. I would consider that wind-up card in Roach to kind of be in that category, but that's pretty much it. That would be the only card in Photon I would really say that that would meet that criteria. My next criteria for judging these sets are support cards for established archetypes. One of the things that Duelist Genesis did extremely well outside of the whole Synchro Revolution was the fact that it released one or two key cards for already good archetypes, which basically took them up a tier and made them extremely competitive for a very long time. Look at what Charge of the Light Brigade did for Lightsworn. Just that one single card made Lightsworn tier 2 and jumped it to tier 1. Or you can look at what Gladiator Beast of Quest and Chariot did, where look how important they are, 3 years later. Look how important those cards still are to the success of GBs. I sort of see that to a lesser extent with A Hero Lives, a card that can easily be splashed in the Gladiator Beast, could potentially revolutionize the entire deck type. Or Orient Dragon, a card where Goyo Guardian has been banned, so it's very hard for Blackwing players to get good level 6s off of Blizzard, and now you have Orient. It just kind of adds to the pool, and I think that Blackwing players are probably going to be running Orient for, a very long time, and I think it would be considered a staple in that deck. I'm not seeing that out of Photon Shockwave. I mean, I'm seeing good support for wind-ups and evolves and stuff like that, but nothing that's going to support Infernities or Hopeless Dragon, or take a deck that was good like Sabers and make it relevant again. I'm not seeing that out of that set. So Generation Force again has the edge. That's not to say that Photon Shockwave doesn't have anything going for it, because it most certainly does. When you look at Rescue Rabbit, which is an absurdly broken card, or you look at Lagaya, which is definitely a synchro that's going to be reckoned with. He looks like the New Age Sheen, and that deck should have tier 1 potential, especially on the regional circuit. I'm not 100% sure on the YCS, but it definitely looks like it's going to be a very good deck. When you look at the other support, you know, for evols and windups, I don't take that into consideration because from a competitive standpoint, for every gladiator beast and lightsworn, you know, basically there's 100 crystal beasts, reptiles, and aliens. You know, themes that just come out and fail and are never good. And for my money, what makes windups any different than crystal beasts? I mean, they might look a little better, but ultimately, if they can't win, they can't win, and they're not really relevant from a competitive standpoint. I'm also not feeling Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. I don't understand how the hell you're supposed to use this card effectively, Konami. First off, the only way that really looks like you're ever going to get this card on the field is off of Rescue Rabbit, which is perfectly fine, but it's a 3,000 beater that takes 2 monsters to summon, which I guess is okay. It doesn't offer any protection, and even its offensive effect doesn't make any advantage. All it does is remove something and remove itself, so you're never getting ahead in a situation. You know, unless you have a Spirit Reaper or a Marshmallow, which is something that nobody plays, unless you have one of those sitting in your way, this card's effect is never really advantageous. I mean, if you have a Stardust, you can just attack it. Its effect, using your effect, is not gonna put you in the bonus or anything like that. So, I mean, this is one of the most counterproductive 3,000 attackers that I've ever seen in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh. So, there could be things that I'm missing. Maybe you guys do see key support cards there. I mean, for my money, from what I've seen of the new Dark World cards, I mean, they're nice, but they're not even going to be used competitively because they're just wildly unnecessary. Not to say that they're bad cards, so it's not like there's that one X-Saber support card in Photon Shockwave. It's like, damn, this is going to make X-Sabers tier 1 again. You know, if this had something like that, then I'd be more inclined to believe that this set is really good. But for my money, I think that this set is really underwhelming, and I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Generation Force. That's my opinion. Let me know how you guys feel about it. Let me know if you felt like there were cards that I should have talked about or I definitely missed, or what themes you think that Photon Shockwave is going to support that makes a big impact in the competitive meta. Thanks for watching, YouTube.